Hey everybody, this is Liam,
Hey, it's Lynn.
and that's Lynn, and we are here for episode 4, maybe, I think, of the ins and outs with Lynn and Liam. And today we have a great conversation about lube and uh, elderly sex, aging sex,
Doing it when you're old?
doing it when you're old. Yeah, sure. So Lynn's gonna start off with her article today.
Okay, so my article this week was from wellandgood.com, and it was all about how there are certain regions in the world called blue zones where people live to much older ages at larger amounts, like disproportionate amounts of people living till they're like 80 or 100. And they are like a phenomenon, right? Because they're cool, and how do they do it? So people do a lot of research. And this article suggests that 80% of people who live in a very specific blue zone in Greece say that they engage in sex. And that's 80% of people over the age of 60,
Yeah.
like 60 to 100. And that's double the rate of people in that age bracket in other parts. So twice as many people in this region, which is living way longer than everybody else, engage in sex. And they researched it, and they found that there's like an interweaving, which I think makes sense, right? Like between good health, engaging in sex, and eating, like eating healthy and living longer. And yeah, I thought the research, when I first saw this article, I thought it was gonna be silly, right? Like a Cosmo article. But the truth is that the NIH did a study, and it showed that there is a relationship between cardiovascular health and sex.
Oh, I bet.
And so I clicked it because I wanted to make sure there was like a real thing. And it turns out that the NIH suggests that there's a few reasons. One is the physical benefit, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, right, Liam? I guess there is a physical benefit to having sex, even if it's not a calorie burn. But the other one is like the emotional benefits to having sex. Like if you're engaging in sex, you have a partner to confide in probably, or like you're sleeping better because everybody has better sleep after they have sex, or like lower stress levels because all the hormones and the chemicals in your body after sex lower your stress. And so yeah, they say that's one of the reasons these people are living so long. The other thing I thought was funny is that there's a higher rate of plant-based diets in this country or this region. And plant-based diets are better for your health, but also apparently they're better for your erections. You're like less likely to have erectile dysfunction if you're eating plant-based food, which makes sense, right? Because erections are blood related, and
Yeah, like red meat can cause like high cholesterol and blood or heart problems.
And heart health and blood and boners are all connected. And so that's another reason they say maybe people are having more sex.
Nice, interesting.
Did you find it interesting?
I did. I found it really interesting. And I also, so you know how I love like people misusing studies. So I looked at the studies that they were like quoting for some of them. Because there was one that was like college students showed to have like higher immunity if they had sex more often. And so I went to go look at that study, and I could only get like an abstract of it. And I thought because like I'm a college student, I could use my library to get it. And even then I couldn't, but I did find a similar article about adolescent boys and how HIIT exercises increase their immunity. So I guess there's some facts in that. And as we talked about a couple weeks ago, sex is kind of like a HIIT exercise.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's a high intensity interval.
So for some people, for some participants.
Yes, for some.
I did think it was interesting that they didn't talk about this article in any way related to like pleasure. It was all like, here are the health benefits of engaging in sex. And at no point did it like really bring up all of the judgment about old people having sex, like, oh, that's so gross, even though we know it's not. it was just like a neutral, no judgment, no ageism article, which is usually rare, right? The perception's like, oh, I don't want to see grandma having sex, but it's like, hey, maybe grandma and grandpa will live longer.
Definitely. I mean, it's either like, ew, I don't want to hear about it, or it's like infantilizing them, right? Like, oh, it's so cute that they're still cuddling.
Yeah, that is true.
Like,
I'm probably guilty of cutifying it.
Cutifying it, yeah.
I mean, the truth is when you're old, you want to do it, right? Like when you're old, don't you want to still be engaging in sexual behavior?
Probably some sort of like sexual contact.
And that's the other thing. It doesn't have to be physical, like penetrative, whatever. It can be like any sort of sexual act because of the emotional benefits that you get from intimacy.
Well, my grandparents, they had sex until they died, and they would call it cuddling, but it was like a euphemism. She'd be like, my grandma would be like, your grandfather didn't cuddle me last night, so now I'm in a bad mood. And I was like, I know what you're talking about.
Wow.
Yeah. I also found it funny in the article. They said like, I looked it up. They said something about like, after you have sex, like you're more likely to talk to your partner about stuff. And I was like, that is not what I do after having sex.
No. Well, some people do, right? I guess,
but like, not in my house, it's like not what we do. We like watch TV.
Like immediately?
Yeah. Not like immediately. Like you have to clean up and stuff first.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, like I'm not one who like lays around like cuddling after sex.
Really? Oh, I thought you might be a snuggler.
I mean, I don't mind. Like I like sleeping next to people, and I like to like cut. Like I like to cuddle a little bit, but no, most times it's like awkward.
Yeah, I guess you're not really a snuggly person, are you? No. So this article leads into your article really well because one of the barriers that people who are old experience to having sex is vaginal dryness.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that as you get older, you go through menopause, you might experience, and you might actually experience it when you're young. I was on antibiotics once for, I think, my wisdom getting taken out, and one of the side effects was vaginal dryness. Yeah. And I'll make lighthearted comments about vaginal dryness, but when you have it, if it's severe, which I've experienced, it's like sandpaper. Like it is like harmful. It's it hurts.
Oh, and not even like just for sex. I bet like just like walking around, like your vagina's just chafing itself.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, it was like a week of my life when I was like 23, whatever the antibiotics were, and I was just like, so anyway, old people, when they might have dryness issues. And so take it away, Liam.
Definitely. So I was trying to read to see if there was like anything in my notes that I wanted to say about your article before I moved on, but there's not.
So my article was short, but straight to the point and kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I also would like it if they, so the one article they stated that like 40%, it was like Americans, and Americans, like we all know, are like a bit unhealthy. But there's like some other areas in the world that have like these kind of like blue zones, and I wonder how they compare to Greece. Like, is it that Greece is just like a real sexy country? Or, like, are the Japanese, because the Japanese have like blue zones, are they getting it on as frequently?
Interesting. Yeah, you're right. It could be also a cultural thing, right?
Yeah.
And then like the Greeks have that really great diet, so right, isn't the Mediterranean diet supposed to be really good?
Yeah, so like the Japanese blue zones and like the Mediterranean blue zones, they share very similar like diets. Obviously different foods because they're like, you know, a world away, but like seafood is high on the list, red meat's low on the list, complex carbs, plants, things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right. There's not a lot of red meat in Greece.
Yeah, no, like, no, maybe goat, is that like a red meat?
I don't know.
It's like a dark meat.
I've never had goat. I've never had anything outside of the standard American meats.
Oh, I love goat. What about like rabbit? No, duck?
I once ate duck and I regret it.
Really? I love duck. Do you regret it now because you have ducks living outside your house?
Oh, hey, attention viewers. I have a couple of in-love ducks that have made their hopeful nests in my yard. And I bought them some oats today.
Oh, I sent you a thing about how to make a pond too.
I know, but you know, there's this annoying thing about Instagram
You have to follow
where
everything.
you have to follow the page to see it. So I had to request it. And so I'll let you know when I've been accepted and I can see it.
I know, I hate that crap.
Let's talk
All right.
about Lube.
So let's talk about Lube. So just like your article was really like open about things, my article is very similar. They talked about like pleasure for lube. They talked about lube for all sorts of different kinds of sex. So whether it's anal or vaginal intercourse, they talked about lube for sex toys, and not just focusing on like inserting sex toys like dildos and things like that for vaginal or anal pleasure, but they also talked about like penis sex toys. So like, you know, sleeves you slide over your penis and what lube works best for those ones. And I thought that was really interesting because people hardly ever talk about like fleshlights or sleeves or things like that. So I thought one of the reasons I wanted to talk about lube today. And so I read a few articles about it and picked which one I thought was like most inclusive. And it was this one.
Yeah. Do you know when they talk about vagina vibrators, they usually only talk about the ones that go inside?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But they have ones that are for the clitoris.
Yep.
That require lube, even though it's not like a penetrative. And they don't require it. It just makes it a much smoother experience. But so yeah, there's more than one sex toy, and it's not all shaped like a wiener going inside.
Yeah, definitely. There's like for some reason, like my Instagram always sends me like things about sex toys. I don't like probably because what I search on the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I found that really, really nice that it was so inclusive. And they have like different sections based on like if you're having vaginal sex or anal sex or using a toy. They also, so some things they also mentioned that I want to mention just to get like some facts about lube. There's 3 major types of lube, right? Silicone-based, water-based, and oil-based. And so although I always recommend not using oil-based things whenever having sex, because I've always heard that they can like trap bacteria and cause infections and things like that. But it turns out it's not all oil-based lubes that can do that. It's only artificial oil-based. So things like Vaseline or lotions, if you use those for sex, it can cause infections because they trap bacteria. But I guess if you use natural lubes like coconut oil or avocado oil or olive oil, those won't trap bacteria, but they are still gonna break down condoms. So if you are using condoms for sex, make sure you're not using oil-based lubricant because they break down latex.
You know, that's my real concern about oil-based lubricant is like when you and I are teaching kids, we really try to highlight not using oil-based lubricant because we teach about condoms.
Yeah.
And I hate the idea that like it complicates the message a little, like, oh, we really don't recommend it if you're using condoms, but coconut oil lube is, you know, interesting. And so I feel stressed when I think about oil-based lubes because I don't want people to think that they're using something and not realize it. Because I think the assumption is if it's sold in a sexy aisle, which is what I call that aisle,
condom aisle,
that it's good and like good for everything, and that the capitalism wouldn't do that to you and sell you something that isn't. But the truth is, capitalism would do that to you.
Capitalism definitely do that to you.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe that they wouldn't, they would. But yeah, it just stresses me out a little.
Yeah, I feel like we run into it all the time. Like I will often kind of like omit certain information or like not go as deeply into certain things. Like, oh, you could use this oil, but not this oil, or this oil, but not this oil. Because we just don't have time, right? Like I have 51 minutes to get information out to these kids, and I don't got time to explain the difference between different kinds of oils to you.
Yeah, and once you complicate it, you lose messages.
Yeah, so I always stick to, you know, water-based, silicone-based. My personal favorite is water-based. I don't like silicone-based lubrications.
Really?
Yeah, that's not my fan. And another thing to remember is if you are using silicone-based lubricants, don't use sex toys with them or silicone-based sex toys because it will degrade the silicone. Was it you who I was talking to who like talked about how someone got a dildo stuck in them because they're using silicone-based lubricants? No?
Nope.
I have so many sex conversations, it's hard to remember who they're with.
How did it get stuck?
So that was the thing, like I was like really confused because I knew you weren't supposed to use silicone lube with silicone sex toys. And the person was like, oh, it got stuck because the silicone lube made the sex toy swell. But that's not how silicone lube breaks down silicone sex toys.
Maybe it was like a cheap plastic vibrator and the heat
Maybe
made
like
it
the heat made it
expand.
swell. Yeah. I was also thinking that maybe it didn't swell. Maybe it became fragile, and as they were pulling out, it started breaking, and they were worried about it breaking off inside. So that's why. And in the end, they had to go to the hospital to get taken out.
I mean, oh.
Yeah, which I was like, oh my god, like I think I would just like rip it out. Like,
Yeah. I think that's a whole nother subject about why it's important to buy higher quality sex items.
yes, definitely.
Um,
And so some other things I liked about the article, a lot of the lube I hadn't heard of. Some of it I have tried, some of it I definitely have not. And there was so many on this like list of the best lubes. I was like, thanks for this like 100-long list. You're not really
Yeah.
helping me narrow it down. But yeah, like silicone lube, I don't really like. Silicone lube is more slippery and slidey. And they said like, oh, that's great for your lube to slip and slide. But I like a lube that is like mildly slippy, but not like super slippy, because I want to feel some of that friction.
Yeah, I think that when you have a vagina, which you don't, I don't think, like the thickness or like the viscosity or whatever the word is matters, because you're gonna have the residue left over. And so like I think I appreciated that the list talked about like thickness and slipperiness, and because that like the what's the word for that, like the
Viscosity, you're right.
Yeah, viscosity of the fluid can really impact your vagina if you're like having sex in the morning with lube and then you've already showered at night, like I shower at night, and so then you have to spend the whole day with like this lubey vagina. And so people don't think about it, but like the type of lube you pick will really throw off your day.
Which I think that's another reason why I like a water-based lube, because I feel like it's easier to clean up. So like after you're done having sex, it's easier to like get off you, so you don't have that kind of like a baby oil on your butt kind of feeling.
Yeah.
So do you like a thicker or do you like a thinner or a thicker kind of lube?
Well, I like a thinner type of lube, and I should just share that my primary use of lube is for running, because I run more often than I engage in sexual behavior, because I run frequently, and I lube up my thighs.
Oh yeah.
And lately my nipples, which I should not, oh God, people would be mortified about this. But when you're running, I had learned this last year in a half marathon. I've never experienced it before until this 90-degree half marathon, nipple chafing. And so now I carry lube with me at all times in case I have a nipple incident again.
Yeah, you're like a lot of people I know who run like marathons and half marathons, they put Band-Aids over their nipples.
Yeah, well, that's hard when you
For
have
lady nipples. Yeah.
Because like the shape and the sweatiness of the bra, but
yeah.
So I think this is an interesting article, because I don't think people spend much time thinking about lube. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, people like, I mean, I know what lube I like the most, and I've tried a lot of different lubes just because of my job. But I definitely like don't think too much about it. I have the one I like, and that's what I use.
Well, but that's even more than most people. Like, I think most people embarrassingly go to like a Walgreens, grab like the KY jelly or whatever it's called. Like, it's like an embarrassing I'll just take anything. Like kind of how you are with like Band-Aids, right? Like you're just like, oh, I just need a Band-Aid. I'm just gonna grab whatever Band-Aid they have there. But the truth is there are really good Band-Aids out there that you should like pick the one that works best for you. And there's also very good lubes.
Yeah. So one time I did have to I was in a not foreign city, but like a city in a different part of America, and I forgot my lube, and I didn't know like where the sex stores were in that city, so I had to go to Walgreens and get KY lube, and it was like the worst experience. Never use KY. It's just garbage.
Yeah, no, it's like how many times do I mention capitalism? It's just like marketing at its best.
Yeah, KY is like the late stage capitalism of lube. Yeah,
that's true.
It's like and like the cooling and heating ones don't. So I don't know about with a vagina, but I hear like they can really mess up a vagina. But with anal sex, don't ever, like, I would never, ever, ever recommend using heating or cooling lube, KY lube in anal sex. It's just, well.
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound like a sensation I would want.
Yeah, like who's ever having sex thinking like, you know what I wish? I wish my vagina or butthole was like freezing cold right now. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah, no, it's a sensation I don't understand. It seems like something that teenagers would buy because they're like, oh, this is sexy.
Yeah, but it's only
right?
gonna last like 2 seconds anyways with a teenager, so.
Facts, especially if you're using lube because it'll be so slippery.
Yeah.
I was shocked that they didn't really talk about one of the most important things, in my opinion, to purchasing lube is the distribution method. Like,
Oh yeah.
I find squirt bottles to be just like the worst. I like the pumping aspect because you can control the portions.
Yeah.
And they didn't really talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was also like, they talked about a little bit, like they were like, oh, this one's like an easy squeeze bottle, or this one like looks great on your nightstand.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't talk about it because like Uber Lube does have like the pump action, while a lot of the other ones they're talking about are squeeze ones.
Or there's some, I think you can buy the pump attachment.
Yeah.
If you'd like to. It's just like, the worst thing is if you get too much lube out of the bottle. It's like when you put too much sunscreen on and then you're just like, where am I going to rub all this sunscreen? Do you ever do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they should make pump sunscreen is a good idea there. But
well, they usually do for like the bigger versions.
Yeah, that's a good call. But anyway, the last thing you want is like all this oily lube all over your bedding.
Yeah. One thing that they did mention that I liked is they were like, you know, when you're using lube, makes you think about cleanup because like if you're using an oil-based lube and it gets on your sheets, it's gonna be really hard to get that oil out. So like a water-based lube is really easy to wash out because it's water-based. While silicone, it's easy to wash out, but not as easy because silicone doesn't disintegrate in water as much. Yeah.
I have a lot of running clothes that are a little oily stained because like I have lube up my thighs or like my nipples. And
is
so,
it like a silicone-based lube then?
Yeah, I usually carry Uber Lube in the individual packets. But like, so you squeeze a little out, but you're running. So what do you do with the packet? And then like you put it in your pocket, and then like it leaks out slowly, and then you have like this little oil patch on your pocket. It's just.
So speaking of like squeeze bottles and personal size packages of lubes, I actually love like the tiny packages of lube. I know like it's probably super environmentally unfriendly because like you're using a whole package every time, but like I think they're just like the perfect portion size.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, but you're right. Single serve is not what's good.
Yeah. So.
Did you see when they talked about the lube warmer? Have you seen a lube warmer?
I feel like I've heard of it before, but I've never gotten one. Some of these people's lube game is like crazy on point.
Although some of it's awful. Can we just talk about some of the bad ones on the list? The one called gun oil, and it's shaped like a bullet. It's like the least sexual, most aggressive packaging I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's like lube you buy for like your husband.
But like your husband who is like embarrassed that you need lube, maybe? Like,
yeah. Or, yeah, like a husband who's like,
you're really manly. I swear this isn't an indictment of like my feelings for you. Here's this bullet lube.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's not that you're not making me wet. It's just that like my body literally doesn't do it. But I have to like protect your masculinity and give you this lube because you like to shoot guns and you're like a real dude.
Although that's a real feeling. Like you don't have a vagina, but there is a lot of pressure if you want lube or need lube to like you're embarrassed to say it because you think like, oh, they think I don't think they're sexy. But the truth, and that's another thing I wrote down, like that people are like proud. They feel like they don't need lube. Like, oh, I don't need lube. I can make my partner wet. But the truth is like anybody could really, I know some people need it, but it's mostly an enhancement. And if you need it, it's not an indictment of you. It's just like, let's make this better.
Definitely. I mean, it's just like when a dude can't get an erection. There's been like sometimes I've never really had the problem myself, but people I've had sex with before have had the problem. And I remember when I was like really young, starting to have sex and it would happen, I would feel like, oh, like, am I doing something wrong? Am I not like, whatever? And then as I grew up, I was like, oh no, it's just like, you're probably actually really nervous, and that's why you can't get an erection, because you're nervous and your body's pumping blood all over the place and it can't focus on your wiener.
Yeah, but it's stressful.
It is, yeah. When your body doesn't work the way it's supposed to, it gets very stressful, especially with sex.
The other packaging I did not like, there's 3. It was so the gun oil one. There was one that was shaped like an egg, but not like a not like a female egg, but like a physical scrambled egg,
Yeah.
which I didn't understand why. Like, it's not a sexy thing.
So the reason that one's shaped like an egg is because you're supposed to use it with their egg vibrator.
Oh.
So
okay.
It's like,
I take it back.
Yeah. So in the description it talks about how this one's great to use with our egg vibrator, and this other one is great to be used with our penis sheath. So like it's like a vibrator in the shape of an egg, and you kind of just like rub it on your clitoris and labias.
And then okay, I'll take that one back. But the final one is the name Boy Butter.
Boy Butter is actually my best friend's like personal favorite lubrication. It's big in the gay world.
Oh, okay. It's just a weird, can we agree it's a weird name?
It is. It's a very weird name. But it's kind of like, I feel like it's a weird name for straight people, but for gay people, it's not that weird. Like the term boy is very like sexualized in the gay culture.
Is the word butter?
No, but the reason it's called Boy Butter is because it's like advertised for anal sex, and it comes in like a tub, and when you open up the tub, it looks like that kind of like, I can't believe it's not butter texture. So it's like a very thick texture, which I'm not a huge fan of. But it stays slippery for a very long time. It doesn't ever get tacky. And I think it has like aloe in it maybe.
That's interesting now that I think about it, like one's targeted towards vaginas, or like same straight couples is like this like romantic and like, beautiful packaging and like sexy names. But you're right, like there is like a different branding for penis couples.
Yeah, like with the gay, like with a boy butter, I think it's just like a tub of lube.
Yeah, but for me, they're trying to like make me feel really good about like this romantic experience I'm about to have with this slippery, sexy. One of them is called Sea, which I think is funny, like a body of water. It's like, this is gonna be so good. Your vagina is gonna be like a large body of water,
like an ocean in there.
Okay, go.
So something that I never like really thought about is I never looked at like the ingredients in lube before. So like I've always just like, I love ID Glide, and that's just the one I use because I like it so much. I never like looked at the ingredients in it. So I'm really interested. Like, is there aloe in my lube? Is there vitamin E? Maybe I want some like vitamin E, keep my skin fresh.
I made the vitamin E note because I was just like, oh, if you have sex for too long, sometimes your vagina will get a little tender, and so like, maybe I do need a little vitamin E.
Yeah, a little aloe to help with that.
After that vitamin D.
Do you know what I like about the joke, like vitamin D, like for dick, is that both having sex, right, makes you happy because it releases oxytocin, but also going in the sun makes you happy because it releases oxytocin. So vitamin D in both its forms can make you happy and get rid of seasonal depression.
Good point. Let's see. Do I have any other notes?
I think I have something. Oh, we did. So the only lube that we actually have a sample of in our place is the Good Lovin' lube. So I am interested about that because I always saw it and thought of it as a vaginal lube. I thought it was like supposed to balance pHs and stuff, but I guess it's just like 95% organic or something. So that's why it's called Good Lovin' lube. I
tried it at the sex ed conference. They were tabling there, and I found it very soft on the hands. This is probably wrong. I am skeptical of any lube that's like sold in Target, because it feels to me that it's like just it's like owned by like Coca-Cola, which is like a false, right? I don't know. I just like the idea of supporting like a smaller company lubricant, because I think like a boutique lube place is like really focused on the quality and the thought process, not like selling 1 million bottles of lube.
Yeah.
But that's probably false.
Well, so in the article, they did talk about like this lube is from this like California Herbist company, and this other lube is from like the Brooklyn that's been making lube for 30 years. So they did talk about like which ones were more like, you know, less capitalistic. Because I bet a lot of the lube that we use is owned by like Coca-Cola or PepsiCo. Like Trojan, I bet is owned by PepsiCo. I bet Trojan owns a bunch of these like lubes.
Yeah. I mean, like Ben and Jerry's is owned by a major company, Burt's Bees now. So like they're all just trying to convince you. Even like really good tampon companies, like boutique tampon companies, are being bought by like freaking oil companies and stuff. So I don't know.
It's the rich.
Gotta support the little peeps.
Gotta support the little peeps. Gotta make your own lube. Get some like yams. Make your own lube like they do in Grace and Frankie. Yeah, and Grace. And did you ever watch her Grace and Frankie?
No, but I like that woman.
Oh, which one? Jane Fonda or
the other woman?
Oh crap. Lily Tomlin.
What's her name?
Lily Tomlin.
Lily Tomlin.
And in the show, she makes lube out of yams because she wants like really like earth-friendly lubes, and like they make this whole entire lube line out of yams, and they make a lot of money off it. They also make dildos for people with carpal tunnel.
Trying to think about that. I guess that might be challenging. I actually think I'm developing some carpal tunnel from working from home for so long. So, do your fingers hurt?
No, but like I don't really type much. I've been reading a lot.
Yeah, I've been typing a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess the moral of the story is don't just buy whatever is quick and easy at CVS. Put some thought into it. Try out different lubes. Maybe use different lubes for different things, right?
Yeah, maybe don't buy lube from CVS in general.
Well, I would want the time to think. So like my husband is so funny. If he buys something on Amazon, he like buys things that have the highest reviews, and they have to have a certain amount of like 4 5-star reviews or whatever. Like that's the level of thought. Like he just bought sunglasses, and he literally bought the ones with the best review. And it's just like, they're glasses, like you put them on. Anyway, so like spend that level of thought in things that are like going in your vagina or in your butt.
Definitely.
And that's the same thing with vibrators, right? Like go all in, think about it hard, and like really process what you want in your vagina or butt.
Yes. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is that if you have sensitive skin. So in the article they talked about like if you have sensitive skin to like stay away from perfumed or scented lubrications. And they also said try a little bit out on like your stomach, like a small patch of your stomach skin to see if it irritates there. And if it doesn't irritate there, then you can use it as like a regular lube. Because one time I met a kid who couldn't use condoms. And I was like, oh, do you have a latex allergy? And he's like, no, I have a lubrication allergy. And all the condoms are made with this lube that I guess like makes his penis like burn like crap.
Yeah, man, I didn't think about that. But can you imagine if you were allergic to something and you put it inside your vagina or butt?
Yeah, put it on your penis? Oh my God.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah. So test it out your lube on your other parts of your body before you put it on your private parts.
There are some other ways to use lube. So my fingers swell up in the summer. I will use lube to get things off, to get rings off.
Yeah.
Do you use lube for anything interesting?
Nope, just sex. But I don't run. My legs don't really chafe much.
Oh, I have the worst chop rub on my thighs.
Yeah, I did. I've gained weight since I've grown older, and I did like chafe once, and I was like really confused. I was like, what the hell is happening with my legs?
You can also use it if your vagina just chafes, right? Like some people, they have a longer labia. Or I swear, like if you gain weight, sometimes your labia will gain a little weight and it can cause more chafing if it like gets a little plump. And so you could also just like put it on for daily use if you're experiencing any vagina chafing.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's like chafing anywhere you can put it on. Yeah, no, I lotion, but that's it.
I don't lotion.
No, maybe that's why.
I don't even own lotion.
Really? Oh my God, I lotion every single morning.
No, but I did start using lotion more at the Connection where I work because everybody there uses lotion. So I became like a little, this is me pumping. Like I just became doing it naturally, but I've never put lotion on before in my life besides it.
Weird.
Okay, so we'll be back next week with new articles. My husband recommended the article about Jane Roe of Roe versus Wade.
Oh yeah.
Did you see this?
No.
Turns out, so Roe versus Wade, she was the woman who sued and is like the case that makes abortion available. And then she became anti-choice.
Really?
And then it turns out, and this just came out in the last few weeks, that she was actually paid by anti-choice people, and she did not feel that way. I guess she just like accepted the money because they offered her a lot of money. And it recently came out, she died, and it was like, oh, actually, that was all bonkers. But I didn't want to talk about it because I was trying to be fun.
Yeah.
So if you all have any recommendations, do you agree we're trying to keep this lighthearted? We don't want to
I thought about like bringing in some sort of like political thing, or like I thought about like talking about like why people are more frustrated about vaginas than they are about penises. But I was like, you know what? No, I just want a lighthearted conversation about lubes.
Lube, old people having sex, Harry Styles, whatever. Just fun things. So if anybody has an article out there, leave it in the comments.
Yeah.
And we'll be back next Friday.
Make sure you like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Okay.
All right, bye, everybody.